So I think this is video that I wanted to make because it resonated with me quite a bit, right? And I think it'd be useful as a tool in your set, wherever you're going in life, and it would help you to open your mind to the different possibilities, ways in which not only that you can make money, but also ways in which you can live your life on your terms, right? Based on what you've decided for yourself. So this video is about playing the bad guy, right? It's about knowing how to be a little bit creative in your thinking and to be able to know why the rules existed in the first place, right? A lot of the time in the past, when I did do a little bit better for myself, it was because I understood the rules, right? I understood how they came to be, and I took the time to really appreciate how this structure helped people, didn't help people, right? But right now, what I'm seeing is that everyone's trying to sell you the rule book, right? The secret way, the only path forward, the only way that you can succeed, the only way that you can date, the only way that you can do anything at all in life. And they give you all sorts of reasons for it, but at the end of the day, how do you go past the reasons to see what's aligned with you, right? And I think that this is where playing the bad guy is really useful, right? It comes as a tool to open your mind and to see the truth behind who this rule helps and who this rule hurts, right? Sometimes it's helping you, sometimes it's hurting you, but that's for you to decide and for you to see for yourself. So let me, next slide. And when we talk about being the bad guy, right? Often we think like, oh, he's just a rebel. He's just he doesn't care about the world. He just does what he wants, right? That's the whole idea of the bad guy that people like to put together. But the truth is that it's not like that. The truth is that in order for you to break the rules, for you to not saying, I'm not condoning any rule breaking behavior. I'm just saying, right? In order for you to actually play the bad guy or to think like one, often you even see in the media, right? There are two types of portrayals of the bad guy. One, he gets everything that he wants, super Bond villain. Maybe James Bond saves the day, maybe not. The other is that this sort of karmic thing happens, and then he falls, right? And the question you can ask for yourself is this: how often does that happen in your life, right? How often does that actually become the case? Who decides who's right? Who decides to stay on top? Who actually has something that is useful to you? And these are very, very simple words, but I hope they strike a kind of a deep chord inside, right? And your game, right, and you're playing the bad guy, not condoning any rule breaking behavior now, is not to just be undisciplined with it, right? You want to turn it into an art. You want to understand. You don't want to judge why people do certain things. The moment you do that, you are just like everyone else, right? You don't have that fluidity of mind to see how the world moves for what it is, right? So when you are doing this whole thought experiment where for a day you decide to let go of all your obligations, you decide to let go of every single story that you've been told, you decide to let go of all of the expectations that's been put on you, and you decide that finally you're going to tune into yourself, decide that I'm going to do what I want, and you finally hear your own voice. That is the goal of playing the bad guy. It's just suspending that belief for a moment so that you can see clearly, right? No big daddy up there telling you what's right and what's wrong. You are, in a sense, in charge of your life, and that's scary, right? They live by your own consequences. You live by your own rule book. Scary, very very scary. Not many people can live like that, and it's not for everyone as well, right? If you don't think this is for you, just click away. It's fine. But if you do want to, tune into what it is that you actually desire and the things that maybe you've been running away from for the longest time, then I think that this is something that you can just practice, right? It's just a tool, nothing else, something to use to put away. You don't have to nail everything when you have a hammer, right? You can put the hammer down. Sometimes you get a screwdriver. You play the good guy, right? The whole goal is to not limit yourself to just one character. And yeah, I think that that's crucial, right? So another example from my own personal life is this, right? I used to limit myself to one role, in my work or whatever it is I've been doing in the past, and then it just felt very stuck. It felt very incomplete, right? Everyone would say that, oh, this is the best way of doing something, but then there's this voice inside of you saying like, hey, that's not all that there is, right? That's not the answer. If everyone's using this answer, that's not the answer anymore, right? So I took a step back. I felt like I was committing a sin. I felt like I was taking the old gods and like shooting them in the head. And I thought to myself, okay, so what exactly is ticking me off right now, and why do I feel like there's something wrong about what I'm being taught in my work, right? It could be anything, right? What is the missing idea that people have not adapted yet to? How is the environment changing? Right? You have to play the bad guy to be able to rip apart someone's entire worldview to say that it's incomplete, and then to do your own thing, and then after that to do that to yourself too, right? So that's hard, right? Even I struggle with that sometimes. So yeah, that's the freedom they get from being the bad guy. Okay, next slide. Again, I think a lot of times people get this wrong, and you know we need to make the bad guy really bad. So in the movies, they're all evil. They want to rule the world. Blah 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 blah. Right? But the truth is that it's just an option. Power at rest. Right? It's just like the military. You have the power, the ability to inflict massive damage, but you choose not to. You are restrained and you are in control of that awareness that you have gained and the understanding that you have after doing the work of understanding how the world works, right? You don't want to always, be destroying people, all of this stuff. I've done that before. Not very nice, not very pleasant. And yeah. But the whole idea is that you want to be able to do both. You want to be both angel and devil. You want to be both saint and sinner, depending on the situation. And you want to have that flexibility to be able to see an entire range of ways that you can live, right? And the moment, of course, someone makes you feel guilty, the moment someone makes you feel like, oh, you should be doing something, just, you don't have to say no, just think to yourself, okay, so why, right? You don't have to challenge them even. I think this is just more about your own internal sense of self, because you think about the guys who always try to champion for some cause, this cause, that cause, blah 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 cause, you're oppressing this person, that person, yada yada yada. Thing is that, sure, if you really wanted to change the world, it starts with you, right? Starts with you getting enough influence to do what it is that you want, right? And maybe that's their path to finding the most influence, maybe it's not. So yeah, I think back to the point. Again, option, but not the obligation to. You don't always have to be bad, right? It's just opening your mind, not letting these moral judgments split the world in two for you. There are more colors than just black and white. There are more colors to the world. There are more people to the world. What about the bad guys, right? Or what about the good guys, right? Can you see from both perspectives? Do you have what it takes to shift in your own view, It's a choice that we all have to make, and it's not for everyone. So yeah. Most importantly, once you've done all of this and you've kind of practiced this, tried it out for yourself, felt like you are fluent in the bad guy register, or the bad guy tonality, the bad guy character, persona, right? What you have now is the freedom to create. You can do whatever you want. You're not held back by some arbitrary convention, right? Let's think about it in art, right? In art, there are people who draw a certain way. You have to put people in a nice little frame, right? You have to put the composition. You make it nice, right? The character has to be here. You got to put pretty background. You got to use paints and all kinds of things like that. But when you start to break the rules, you start to say, okay, I don't want to do it this way. I want to do something new. You let go of all that stuff and you create the next thing for yourself. And now you've pushed your industry, your domain of knowledge, and your whatever it is that you're doing to the next stage, which is nice, right? So I think more than anything, it's just giving yourself the freedom to create. And even while I say this, it's still scary for me, right? Like I know that every time I do something like this, and I look at convention, and I look at the limits of it, it still scares me shitless, right? Like I'm not gonna say that, like, oh wow, it's effortless, right? But the opportunity is always there. The opportunity to evolve, to expand, to create something new is always there, and for you to take if you decide that hey, maybe today I feel like being the bad guy. So yeah, I hope this is useful for you. And if you are in internet marketing ish, you sell stuff online, I'll link to one of my unlisted videos down below. And you can see how I do research. And of course, this is the more technical version of this bad guy story, but how you can understand myths and how you can understand ideas, how you can understand the forces that drive conversions in your product, right? So if that's interesting to you, check it out. If not, that's all for me, and maybe this is useful for you. Um, I hope you have a good day. All right, see you. Bye.